Letter 8, Rabenau, The Gallery, The Terrace of Brühl, The Grossgarten, The Great Heat by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. In such another verse has the Valley of Beauty, sunny Rabenau, been celebrated by one of my friends who visited it with us, and whose ardent and poetic imagination was warmed by inspiration in this lonely spot. I am sorry to say that, secluded and beautiful as is the narrow dell, I did not quite share his transports. I obtained no refuge from the heat, from which I had endeavoured to escape. Truly we enjoyed the shade of woods and cliffs, and the refreshing murmur of the stream, but deep down and shut in as is the ravine, we found it close and breezeless. Besides, to my misfortune, I am more fastidious than a traveller ought to be. During the day I sought for a cool spot, and even though I found it not, yet as I loitered among the woods, every object charmed the eye, and evening came at last bringing relief and enjoyment. But at night it was otherwise. The mill is a very rustic cart, and the Germans are not, as far as I can judge, a cleanly people. At Kissingen we were obliged to exert ourselves vehemently to get the floors, which, being of white smooth deal, to use a servant's phrase, show dirt washed. Water had never touched the boards of my room at Rabenau, and in vain I pleaded for a little scouring. Then German beds, especially in the north of Germany, are uncomfortable. Feather beds everywhere are disagreeable, but here they are constructed on the most odious principle. They are a quarter filled with feathers, so when you lie down they enclose you on all sides as a half-empty bladder does your finger if you press it. Usually there are mattresses besides, and one can discard the annoying softness, but at Rabenau there was only a loose straw palliasse, and one of these disastrous beds, which threw me into a state of nervous agitation that turned the night into a period of pain. In short, after enduring the annoyance for 3 nights, and I quitted it, leaving our poet and musician behind, to indulge for a few more days in the inspirations of the rocky dell. An old woman stowed carpet-bag, cloaks and books into a basket, and putting a weight I could scarcely lift on her back, walked briskly on before. Like gnomes, we emerged from the inner recesses of the earth and ascended to its outer edge, and again descending the hillside, we reached the high road, where we hoped to find a carriage sent to meet us. We were disappointed, but after a perplexing half-hour, during which we expected to have to walk to Dresden, we secured a return britska, and gladly took our way to our temporary home. Could I have foreseen the heat, I had not fixed to remain at Dresden so long, but have gone on to wait for our friend at Toplitz. There is no help now, and I console myself by recollecting that I am in a city I have long desired to see, and can store my mind with the memory of 1,000 objects, which hereafter I shall look back on as my choicest treasures. I ramble in the morning in the gallery. The heat indeed is almost insupportable, but still I cannot tear myself away. There is a lovely picture of Rebecca at the Well by Giorgione. There is a fine one by Annibale Carracci of the Angel of Fame. He is springing upwards, wreaths of laurel hang from his arm, one hand bears a crown, the other holds a trumpet, and a halo of flame plays round his head. There is something living and spirit-stirring in this picture, though its colouring is not pleasing. There are the portraits of his 3 daughters by Palma Vecchio. One of them in particular is very beautiful. The women of this painter resemble those of Titian, the same full feminine form, the same voluptuous repose, joined to queen-like dignity. One of the gems of the gallery is the Cristo della Moneta, of Titian, which Mrs. Jamieson eulogizes with much taste and judgment. It is among the earliest, and is one of the best of the works of this artist. It is but a small half-length, containing 2 figures. The Jew shows a coin to our Saviour and asks to whom tribute should be paid. The questioner looks full of cunning, Jesus suffering, patient, dignified. As with all these great painters, the countenance expresses many mingled feelings, and you read the thoughts of the martyr, revealed by his searching eye and the sad composure of his mien. This is a snare, you think to entrap me, you will not succeed. With a word I brush away the flimsy web of evil. But it will not always be thus. The time will come when I shall be your victim, yet I bear the present insult and future death with resignation for your sake, for the sake of all mankind. My path is before me, I tread it patiently and resolutely though you strew it with thorns. All this you read in that face, all gentleness, resignation, love and suffering. A connoisseur here objects that the countenance of Christ wants dignity. Perhaps it does, yet methinks it has as much as the human face in sorrow can express. I told you that the gallery shuts at 1. I linger to the last. At 1/4 before this hour, the men come round and draw down the blinds, leaving the gallery nearly in darkness. I was in the room containing the Correggios when they did this. The knot of that painter is among them, the shepherds visiting Jesus in the manger by night, and the only light emanates from the cradle of the divine child, spreading its halo over the Virgin's face, which is bent over the babe, while the shepherds veil their eyes with their hands from the dazzling effulgence. When by the drawing down of the blinds we were left nearly in darkness, the effect on this picture was miraculous. The child lay in living beams, which seemed to emanate from a focus, and spread rays of light around. I could not have believed that any coloured canvas could have shown such glowing radiance. The intention of the master becomes more clear, and his wonderful art more admirable. No doubt the picture was painted for some niche that favoured the peculiar distribution of light and shadow. There are some very beautiful specimens of the Dutch school in the gallery, but I do not, of course, send you a mere catalogue, and in mentioning those that gave me most pleasure, you know my preference for Italian pictures. One day, while wandering about the gallery, I saw a well-known face. It was more than a pleasure. It was indeed a gain to meet the accomplished author of La Poesie Crescent, in the very spot where his knowledge and taste would inform my ignorance and correct my judgment. Still more agreeable it is to learn that he is also bound for Italy. His animated conversation and refined society will add more than I can express of interest and pleasure to our rambles. I drag myself painfully home from the gallery, but find no shade and short repose. We have here only a woman who does for us, preparing our breakfast and attending to our rooms. Our dinner is another affair. Not far from us there is a trattoria, kept by a Milanese, well known in Dresden as a good cook, and where we can obtain food not Germanized in its preparation. We either go and dine there or have our dinner sent to us. His prices are exceedingly reasonable. The ceremony of our dinner over, I repose as well as the sun will let me, which has by this time left one part of our house and invaded another, making every portion, beyond conception, sultry. I never found any heat so oppressive. This arises from Dresden being so inland, and no rain having fallen for 6 months, the dryness of the atmosphere renders its high temperature penetrating, subtle, burning, intolerable. Evening comes, and though it does not bring with it sufficient coolness to banish lassitude and even pain, still the heat is diminished, and I go out to walk or drive. If on foot, we go usually to the Terrace of Brühl, to which you ascend by a wide flight of steps from the foot of the bridge. The view here is beautiful. I can imagine circumstances which would render it sublime. It overlooks the Elbe, and with that river in its pride of place. Full, rushing, stormy, it would add movement and grandeur to the scene, but the waters have ebbed even as the Arno does, till the bathers almost walk across without any chance of getting out of their depth. The bed, as a river's bed always does when the shrunken stream leaves it exposed, is a deformity to the landscape, and the extreme dryness of the season has caused the fields on the other side to resemble those seen by Charles Lamb from his retreat at Dalston. "Talk of green fields," he said. "Every one has green fields. I have drab-coloured fields." I look over the parapet and try to imagine the river full to the brim, the lower piles of the beautiful bridge bathed and hidden by tumultuous waves, the domes and spires of the city rising silent above a turbid, tempestuous, sea-like river. That would be the scene which is the glory and boast of Dresden. Now all is slothful and stagnant. The same is to be predicated of the company assembled. All the beau monde of all the towns of Germany is assembled at various baths, and so I must not wonder that I not only saw no beauty, but nothing either well-dressed or elegant in the promenades. We have driven to the Grossgarten, a large park filled with fine trees, and with the lawns laid out in verdant sward, instead of being an incult growth of the coarsest grass, very uninviting, especially in its present arid state. The shady walks and glades would be pleasant. I may say the same of all the other gardens of which this capital boasts. They would be very delightful, only just now they are deficient in freshness and verdure. Do not think I say this as a fault-finder, except that they ought to learn from us what grass when cultivated for ornamental uses ought to be. I consider the gardens and terraces and pleasure grounds that adorn Dresden more beautiful than those of almost any other capital. The fault is ours, not theirs. The pleasure grounds of a city ought to be, and in this case are, adapted to the seasons during which the inhabitants make use of them. But in the height of summer, nature only in her free fresh beauty can afford enjoyment. We have no business to come here now in search of wood and stream and field, which alone can content our souls, athirst and wearied by the heat. The fault, as I have said, is ours, not that of Dresden, which really may be said in some degree to rival Florence in its pretensions to beauty, and which has of course an individual character of its own. P goes almost every night to the opera. The heat is so very great that I have only seldom ventured. The house is very pretty, and I had hoped, as there are some good singers, to hear some of the chef-d'œuvres of German composers. I am disappointed. At Berlin we had Masaniello. Here we have La Dame Blanche, Die Weiße Frau, instead of the Huguenots, which our musical friend considers the finest composition of modern times, inferior only to Mozart, superior to him, inasmuch as orchestral accompaniment is so wonderfully improved and extended since the day when Figaro and the Zauberflöte were brought out. I am much disappointed in not hearing this opera. The tenor is a young, good-looking man with a very pleasing voice and good style. It is strange indeed how well German sings. Look at the language with its accumulation of consonants, and it appears worse even than our own for singing. But in reality it is far better, ours being from its peculiar accent the worst, I believe, in the world, while the German is smoothed and vocalized and flowing in a manner which, till I heard it sung by natives, I could not have imagined. This same Estruccioli enunciation does not, however, make it pleasing to the ear when spoken. Night comes at last. At 10 o'clock all Dresden goes to bed. If you stay out after, you must pay your porter 4 groschen. Night comes, but no cool breeze to calm and refresh. We live in a Troissim in the Altmarkt, and look upon its large square, our windows being turned to the east. Till a late hour the people are employed removing the booths in which they expose their wares during the day, and the clatter they make prevents repose. Near us is a church tower with a loud clock, and as I lie courting sleep with my windows of necessity wide open, the sound of the clock seems to enter my room. We are told, sounds are produced by vibrations of air which, beginning where the sound is born, spread themselves further and further, and thus I hear, I feel it, I believe that I am aware of the moment when the clock strikes. On comes the sound, louder and louder, till my room is filled as with thunder, and the wounded sense of hearing would fain fly and escape, but cannot. You can form no idea what it is to have 12 o'clock thus walk up bodily to your pillow, in the otherwise deep silence of night. We have as yet seen few of the Huns. I am trying to summon courage and strength for sightseeing, which will indeed be a task of labour, with the thermometer above 90 in the shade of night, remember, as well as in that of day. Adieu.